Hey, good morning / good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are joining. My name is Scott Latchford. I'm a partner at PSFK, as Piers mentioned, and I lead the research and strategy. I am joined today by my colleague, Lauren Lyons, who's a strategist on my team. And we're excited to share a piece of research that Piers alluded to, which is the live e-commerce report that we put together. All of this is related to the specific situation that we find ourselves in currently, which I think the quickest way to sort of think about things is a lot of these behaviors were already somewhat established within the marketplace, but ultimately we're seeing things being quite accelerated in terms of how new people are adopting these behaviors. If you think about folks like my parents who are in their 70s who have now started shopping online and downloading mobile apps, I think that's a great metaphor for sort of where we're at. Within the context of the research that we're going to be sharing with you, we're going to look at some of the sort of accelerating consumer behaviors and then dive right into the trends. We have 8 trends and a number of leading examples from the marketplace that will help showcase how these ideas are coming to life. So let's go ahead and get started here. Some of these things I think are going to be very straightforward and probably things we're already involved in right now, but needless to say, people are spending way more time online. A lot of that is out of necessity, without being able to leave the house and do the sort of normal things in our lives. We're streaming way more content. We're using social media more than ever before. And as a result, we're looking for things to do within the context of these channels that are available to us. You know, as digital has become the primary and sort of only way that we're ultimately able to sort of interact with one another, that shopping to shift to e-commerce has only accelerated. And certainly some of that will shift back to normal as more stores open up and the sort of new normal, as they say, is taking place. But I think a lot of this, a lot of these behaviors will remain afterwards. Social media always has been or has been growing as a means of inspiration and discovery for consumers. And that continues to grow and accelerate. And I think what we're seeing is this is an important channel in terms of how people are finding new brands, how people are seeking inspiration in terms of those shopping behaviors, and the sort of notion of social selling, which has been around for a while, is now finally feels like it's become established and is ready to take off. I think as well, we're seeing this sort of desire amongst consumers to seek out live media experiences, everything from entertainment to socialization, and then ultimately thinking about what that means for the way that people shop online. Live streaming is certainly a behavior that is beginning to really sort of take shape and become a great opportunity as well. As mentioned, live streaming is something that has become a new priority. It's personal, it's interactive, it provides that layer of instant gratification. There's social aspects to it, and brands that are really sort of tapping in are finding success with that as well. And this is something we'll dive into a little bit more as we continue. And then, finally, I think we see that people are gravitating towards trusted information with all the information that's sort of out there. People are ultimately looking for experts as well as, their sort of peers and communities as, ways for them to access information and find out what the best of everything is out there as well. As mentioned, we're going to be highlighting 8 trends These are loosely organized around the digital path to purchase. So without further ado, let's sort of dive in here. So the first trend that we're going to talk about is what we're calling shoppable inspiration. I've been reading a lot recently online about people sort of predicting that entertainment channels, things like Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon, will ultimately, these sort of streaming media channels will ultimately be a huge and growing conduit for the way people sort of come to shop. I think in the interim, what we're seeing is some of that starting to take shape, where what would be sort of lean back media occasions, whether that's through social media or more traditional channels like sort of TV, are turning into sort of lean forward discovery occasions, and ultimately transitioning into that sort of purchase path or purchase opportunity for consumers.
So one way we're seeing this idea of shoppable content evolve is with Instagram teaming up with Chow Now. What's interesting here is Instagram has been able to reposition its shoppable capabilities for the restaurant industry as social distancing began and takeout or delivery were kind of the only real way for restaurants to function. So by teaming up with Chow Now, which is an online ordering platform, restaurants were able to add linked stickers to their Instagram stories. And those stickers would take consumers directly to their page where they could purchase gift cards, pre-filled food orders, or merchandise. And ultimately, this helped consumers more readily support restaurants, but it also opened up this new channel for restaurants to gain or interact directly with their consumers.
Yeah, and I think this is super interesting. I mean, obviously, food imagery is something that people really gravitate towards, and both as a sort of inspiration point, as well as opportunities to sort of discover new recipes and things like that. And so I think it's a natural transition point or aspiration point to turn that into something that's shoppable. And certainly within the context of restaurants, but you can imagine this sort of going in a lot of different directions, whether that's content like cookbooks or grocery shopping and sort of all of the above. And Instagram is certainly continuing to kind of push forward with the ways that this platform can interact.
And then just another example here. This is how we're seeing shoppable content really evolve. And here we're talking about NBC's NBC Checkout. So when viewers or readers are interacting with any of the media companies' articles, videos, ads, they're actually able to directly purchase products they encounter within them without being redirected to a seller's site. So with this example, the interesting thing is that there's an element of direct to consumer for the media company, but there's also this seamless efficiency that they're able to provide their viewers as a shopping experience.
Yeah, and this is interesting. I mean, it's still, as you can see, especially in the above photo, there's still some sort of education that needs to happen within the context of the consumer. Learning that they need to pull out their phone and actually scan the code that appears on the screen. So it's getting closer to being sort of an elegant solution right now. We'll see how this gets adopted and what ultimately ends up happening here. But I think it's quite interesting to see the potential of something like this to naturally sort of transition from, again, lean back to lean forward here. As alluded to at the beginning, certainly live streaming has been something that continues to grow. The behavior has become most established within the Chinese marketplace around some of their big shopping festivals, particularly Singles Day, which happens in November. But there's a lot of interesting things that happen here. Again, this is specifically created content that is intended for selling. A lot of times it involves celebrities. There can be other sort of entertainment that's sort of brought in alongside of that. Key opinion leaders or influencers are also tend to be involved. There's a level of interactivity, there's education, there's a lot that can happen within the context of this. And depending on how sort of programmed in advance, it certainly can also be tied into things like product drops and product releases as well.
So, as an update to Snapchat's original programming, they have a new shoppable series called The Drop, featuring limited edition streetwear from a host of designers and celebrities. And how it works is Snapchatters are able to tune in, learn about items that will be on sale, and find out what time they will be available. At that designated time, consumers can come back and access and purchase limited edition items. An interesting part of this is that everything that is available through the drop is exclusive to Snapchat's The Drop. So it's an interesting way to create this ongoing shopping event for the social media app.
Yeah, and this is a partnership with Network, who we've spoken about in the past at various events, and I think this is really interesting to see again how these sort of like pre-programmed events, really kind of build that buzz. There's a level of sort of talk show format that's associated with this. And then, as Lauren mentioned, that sort of level of limited edition or exclusivity there as well.
And so with JD.com, this example with live streaming in China is already a really big part of their shopping culture. But with COVID lockdowns and social distancing, JD.com, which is one of China's largest online retailers, they were actually able to partner with farmers across the country, help them live stream with potential shoppers and show off everything from fresh produce to flowers via the JD Live app. And so what's great here is that JD.com was also able to help these farmers with completing orders and fulfillment by offering them access to their delivery network.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible once you sort of think about this becoming such an embedded behavior that you can do it from, for things like food items. And so this is really interesting to see where this will continue to go. One of the things that, again, is something that we've been seeing, but perhaps hasn't totally sort of sorted itself out, is what we're calling the sort of notion of virtual window shopping. And the idea here is that sort of casual browsing that can happen when you're walking into a store and you don't necessarily have something in mind. Certainly that can exist as consumers kind of scroll through websites, but it loses a bit of that sort of serendipity and surprise. So we're seeing new ways that different retailers and brands are starting to sort of experiment with ways that sort of casual browsing can exist within the context of a sort of remote or virtual context.
So as an innovative example of how you can translate the in-store experience online, this fashion label was able to launch virtual storefronts via Zoom. And customers were able to join Zoom waiting rooms. And while in there, an associate would be able to meet them, walk them through the store, and offer just an added level of insight into each product, all from within the store. So an interesting way of kind of connecting what would have been a traditional in-store shopping experience to the online world.
Yeah, and this was something that came up yesterday. I think there's, regardless of what ends up happening as we sort of emerge into a more sort of normal kind of shopping context, I think these virtual sort of shopping sessions can still exist and have a lot of merit. And I think it sort of creates an interesting opportunity to consider the store as a sort of, media studio or content studio, and how you actually sort of train up your associates to have these engagements with customers.
And here, French fashion label Dior, they were actually able to partner with Obsess, which is a VR developer that helps apparel and beauty brands to create virtual and shoppable replications of their store. So within this Dior's VR store, users are able to move around, they're able to interact with products, and then they're also able to complete purchases.
Yeah, so this is, again, more of that sort of, it's like the Google Maps for in-store. I think if done correctly, this is quite an interesting way. I mean, you can still see the sort of traditional merchandising of behaviors, and it really is intended to kind of replicate that sort of browsing in store, and create some interesting opportunities. So we'll see where this sort of leads and what the uptick of this is in terms of that sort of general e-commerce experience. Certainly within the context of online shopping, this notion of the augmented try-on is something that has existed for a long time. I do think there's something to be said for how this can create additional confidence within the context of shoppers who are looking at things online, but as well and reduce some of the return idea here. So let's look at some of the examples of how this is playing out.
So one way that AR just keeps becoming more and more usable and user-friendly, Sony rolled out this app, Envision TV AR app, where it's pretty self-explanatory, but users are able to use the app, virtually see how a Sony product would look in their home, down to all of the specs and dimensions, and then know for sure and have that confidence when they go to purchase the item that how it's going to look and that it'll be a seamless fit in their home. And then with this is a cool example as well, and I think we have a video to show with it.
You can feel free to talk over it as well, Lauren, a little bit.
So this is from Super Personal, and by using a combination of machine learning and then also from different inputs, user input data, as far as like a user or a consumer's weight, height, any other physical attributes they want to include. This company is actually able to create a virtual avatar for you. You also submit head movements to make it a little more lifelike, and it makes it so that you can actually see how clothes will look on you in real life.
The registration and also the results.
Yeah, this is. I think this is cool because obviously then there's something about creating this sort of digital twin of you as a consumer, and or this is something that exists in the marketplace to a degree where once you have that sort of virtual representation of yourself, then you can begin to sort of experiment with trying on and testing out different products and the like.
Tried wearing, and generally exploring more options and making the shopping experience.
Another thing that we think is quite interesting here is this notion of the sort of pre-shopping personalization, which doesn't necessarily have to be about personalized product, but can be about recommendations that are based on a set of questions or consumer needs, and that can be tied into a lot of interesting ways to again ensure that consumers are ultimately getting the right product for themselves as they're shopping online.
So here we have a platform called Curated, and how it works is consumers answer a series of questions, and then they're connected with an expert based on what they're interested in shopping, whether it's for certain activities like cycling, rock climbing, hiking. And so once they connect with that expert, they're able to chat about what their preferences are, what they're looking for exactly. That expert is then able to shop for them, offer links to products that they think would be best suited, and basically just help them along the shopper journey and offer that, like expert advice all along the way. And then here we have Sunday. This is a lawn care startup that offers subscribers this personalized lawn kits. So subscribers are able to send in some soil from their yard. Sunday is then able to analyze it based on where the user is located and weather patterns, data like that. And then they're able to ship back a personalized lawn care kit for them.
I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to keep zooming forward. Certainly within the context of the online shopping experience is this notion of by appointment shopping, which I think is quite interesting. There's a lot of different ways that brands are starting to tap into this. In some instances, sending product along to consumers and then having a styling session as a part of that, and or again, sort of scheduling an appointment to learn exactly what a consumer is interested in, and then making sure that they're getting the best recommendation before sharing that product with them as well.
And then just really quickly, this example is from Nora Gardner, and how it works is users are actually able to go online, look through a lookbook, and have a couple different styles shipped to their home. They then are able to schedule an appointment with an associate from Nora Gardner. They hop on a Zoom together, they try on the clothes, they get some instant feedback on how everything looks, if they need a different size, what might work better. And then they're able to try or purchase what was sent to them or send back for other options as well. And then this is from Cadillac, and this is a service that they're calling Cadillac Live, which is an online showroom. So if you're interested in checking out a new car, but you don't feel comfortable going to a showroom right now, you're able to instantly connect with someone who is there. They can show you around, they can show off a car, and then also help you schedule a in-person driving test as well at a later date.
I'm gonna skip over this quickly. The peer-to-peer notion has come up a bit in the context of this. There's some interesting examples of how that's manifesting within the marketplace. I think maybe perhaps I'll just quickly talk about Squatted, which is a brand new shopping party extension, which essentially is bringing that idea of going shopping with friends, but replicating that online. In this case, this is a browser extension, which can be used in partner stores, things like ASOS and Boohoo, Pretty Little Thing. Shoppers basically create appointments with their friends, and then as they choose items, they can get recommendations and get advice from their friends as they're shopping. And then the final thing we wanted to talk about is this notion of post-purchase, which is equally important within the context of that sort of end-to-end shopping experience, but how some of these new technologies are enabling that level of support and care to help people get onboarded with products properly and or troubleshoot as potential problems arise. And we'll quickly show an example here. This is from Lowe's. They just recently launched this brand new
we know the way you work has changed.
Tool
That's why
called
Lowe's
Job
is working
Site, which
harder
I'll
than
let
ever to keep pros
speak for
working.
itself here for
Like
a
the
minute.
new Lowe's for Pros job site, powered by Stream. It's designed to help pros like you work even when you aren't on the job. You can guide customers around the work site, sketch to highlight points of interest, capture images, and even automatically detect serial numbers. That means you can reach more customers in more places from wherever you need to be. Lowe's for Pros job site, free to use through October 31st. It's just one more reason.
Amazing. So that will end us off. I know a version of this will be made available to everyone. So thank you for following along. Hopefully there was some interesting inspiration there for you, and look forward to seeing you throughout the day.